sit comfortably with the magazine editors who wanted to support our troops. Philip was therefore forced to find another way to get his work published, and out of this necessity, the groundbreaking book, Vietnam Inc., was born.
Well, there's no book like Vietnam Inc. It's the most powerful document that tells us about that war, that makes sense of that war that I know of. I've always seen the Vietnam War as a rape. I think Philip did, and this picture seems to sum that up. This is a brothel. These are two soldiers, two GIs, descending on a Vietnamese woman. It is that much overworked word, the metaphor. He looks behind the facades, he looks behind the screens, he lifts the rocks with his camera. He tells us something that we're not being told. He goes through all the smoke screen that the official view of events always throws up. So he's truly subversive. For me, it's almost a definition of journalism to be subversive.
Vietnam Inc. could never have brought the war to an end, but it is commonly believed that the effect of this historic, exposing work caused the newspaper publishers and TV networks to question the coverage they were giving the war and slowly to change its direction. Through this, the American people began to question what was being done in their name in a far-off corner of Southeast Asia. A Vietnamese victim with her tagged hand up to her bandaged face is one of the most memorable images from the book.
It's that woman with a hand to the face that has become the iconic image. It has that ability to embed itself in the brain in a way, I think that, well, the moving image is too fleeting. In a sense, it's too confused. It's the iconic, great image that sticks there and that we respond to.
It is iconic still images like this that have come to embody the Vietnam War, and Philip Jones Griffiths himself was inspired by one such image, Robert Capa's The Falling Soldier.
Looking back on it, I probably saw Capa's The Falling Soldier around about when it was published. And I think, looking back on it, that must have had sort of quite an effect.
Capa took this image in 1936, which came to symbolize the Spanish Civil War.
I think it's safe to say that it's one of the few truly iconic images in the history of photojournalism. And as a result of that iconic status, it's gone beyond just being a picture. It has become an icon.
However, the photograph, which is considered by many to be one of the greatest and most influential in the history of photojournalism, has always been shrouded in controversy, as accusations had been made that it was in fact staged.
The thing that's difficult about photography is that on one hand there's this sense of reality and veracity. And there's no question but that you are reliant upon what is in front of the camera. That is your subject. But at the same time, if you step a little bit to the left or you step a little bit to the right, if you crop out this person or that event, you're shaping the story.
In December 2007, a collection of precious negatives arrived in New York City. They had taken 60 years to reach their destination via Central America and were now known as the Mexican suitcase. Amongst them were the missing Civil War negatives of Robert Capa and the prospect of a final definitive answer to the question mark hanging over the authenticity of The Falling Soldier.
The first disappointment? There's no suitcase. I mean, maybe there had been a suitcase, but we certainly didn't receive a suitcase. That being said, we did receive all the material that we thought was going to be in the suitcase. And that's an extraordinary thing. This is something that was almost mythical in our world of researching Robert Capa. You know, this is the mother lode.
The Mexican suitcase was never going to provide an instant answer to the question, as cameras at that time could not shoot quickly enough to capture the fraction of a second before and after the iconic frame. However, to have the actual negatives to study shows that if Capa was the type of photographer to stage a scene, this group of unedited negatives would reveal the artifice.
You don't really get a sense of artifice or photographic style. There's no romanticism about them. You get the feeling that there's no interception between the photographer and the subject and what you're seeing. You get the feeling that if you were there witnessing that event, that actually is what the event would look like.
Philip Jones Griffiths, perhaps best known for his work on the Vietnam War, died aged 72. His 1971 book, Vietnam Inc., had a huge influence on American attitudes towards the war. He joined the famous Magnum photographic agency and went on to become its president. Philip Jones Griffiths.
When Philip Jones Griffiths died, the world lost one of its greatest photographers, but it also lost one of its greatest champions of truth.
He was adamant that people have the full version of what was happening in any conflict. So the photographs are evidence. You would see from the contact sheets and the negatives the proof, whereas he would say with digital, it's not that easy nowadays to see the evidence.
Philip would never accept anything at face value. He would question everything. His photographs were real and unmanipulated.
This is a photograph that his dear friend Chen Chi took, who's a Magnum photographer. And it said, the photographers are wearing a t-shirt that says, "Warning, digital manipulation kills photography." So he was very, I mean, what he thought should be done in Photoshop is what would be done in the dark room, but you shouldn't take it any further than that.
In the digital age, a tragedy on an Iraqi street corner can be on the front page within hours. A vision of hell competing for our attention on the shelves of a newsstand on our own normal street.
Car bombs going off every day. Mortars coming in onto your compound every day. People shooting at you, people shooting at each other. Morgues being filled up beyond capacity every other day. Suicide bombings, that's not normal life.
For a photographer trying to change the reality of a war through their pictures, the temptation to make them more dramatic through image manipulation techniques is all too great.
I go out there every day and risk my goddamn life to come back and tell the story, and then I have assholes tell me, well, how can I believe that your pictures are real? Because idiots using Photoshop to create a more dramatic picture, to better their career, to get the front page. I mean, I don't care how much pressure you're under. The first pressure that you should be adhering to is truth.
But is the truth safe when anyone with a phone camera is a potential journalist?
We have a situation today which to me is the most grievous insult of all. How dare they tell these individuals because they've got a telephone or a little digital camera that they're reporters? How dare they? And yet, you know, what's funny is the magazines and the YouTubes and all of this nonsense, they all love it because they don't have to pay for it. It's free.
War photography is not just about capturing the dramatic moments, but also the long-term consequences of these events.
If you can pull yourself out of this, taking the picture of the car bomb itself and into what happened around that car bomb, of all the people who, their lives, you know, have changed forever because of that car bomb, I think this would be the strength of war photography.
The images taken by these dedicated frontline photographers ask challenging questions. They are evidence. They arrest us. They hold all of us accountable.
I was in this sort of province hospital. I looked around and this kid, 7, 8, 9, 10, that kind of age. And he was halfway to becoming a skull. He'd got napalm in the face. And there was a lot of bone showing through. And it was